Now, let's take a look at the latest polling. According to Polymarket, Donald Trump is sitting at 61% compared to Kamala Harris at 37%. Now, Josh, this is a little bit different to some other polling we've seen recently where it shows the pair a bit more at neck and neck. What does this suggest in your view?
Look, I think that Donald Trump continues to be the favorite to win the election. Now, I am not guaranteeing a victory or anything like that. It's going to be close. It's definitely going to be close. But here's my rationale here. Look, if Biden was going to drop out of the race, obviously whoever replaced him was going to get an immediate enthusiasm boost in the polls. Democrats were desperate for Joe Biden to get out of the race. The media, which pretended to be doing an earnest job of trying to hold accountable the government for about a month, immediately turned on a dime. They snapped their fingers, and now they're in full-scale apology or propaganda mode again. But here is why I take some solace in that from a conservative perspective here. I take some solace in that because even now, after that bump, and after that high watermark, so to speak, Kamala Harris still trails Trump in most head-to-head polling on a national level. She still trails Donald Trump in most swing state polling. Now, admittedly, it's closer. The point is, this should be a real high watermark for her. Republicans have barely begun to fight back. They haven't really started to carpet bomb the airwaves, reminding her, as you and I have already discussed here, about her radical far-left record when it comes to energy policies, the environment, the war on cops, illegal immigration, healthcare, electric vehicles, you name it there. She has a horrible, horrible, horrible record, which is why she's never been a particularly successful politician. Again, her presidential bid went absolutely nowhere. When the voters actually learn about Kamala Harris, and frankly, when they hear her open her mouth, because she's not exactly the most eloquent woman in the world, when all these things get exposed for the masses, the American people kind of cringe and try to look the other direction there. So again, it's going to be close. America's elections typically these days are close, but I continue to think that Donald Trump is more likely than not to win this election.
Yeah, look, fingers crossed, we're watching that polling closely. Now, Joe Biden has proposed sweeping reforms to the Supreme Court, including term limits and a binding code of conduct for its 9 justices. Josh, look, let's be honest, Kamala Harris will do the exact same thing and declare war on the court. Why are they looking to undermine the rule of law?
Well, Kamala Harris has actually already came out and said that she supports what Joe Biden is doing here. So they're basically attached at the hip, those two, which, by the way, is kind of one of the problems of trying to run a presidential bid while you're the sitting vice president, because you can only be your own thinker so much. So they're very much on the same page here. Look, Joe Biden, first of all, is a galling hypocrite on this. I wrote a column on this a few years ago, actually. Joe Biden rose to the floor of the United States Senate in 2005 to applaud the Senate Judiciary Democrats back in 1937, who overwhelmingly rejected Democratic President FDR's infamous court packing scheme back during the New Deal of the 1930s. Joe Biden in 2005 was singing their praises for rejecting this idea that we would overthrow our established and heritage traditions and somehow try to run roughshod over a coordinated branch of government. Here we are 19 years later. He's mentally and physically deficient at this point, in the throes of a palpable senescence. And sure enough, at this point, he is an empty vessel for the Democratic Party to just kind of project whatever they want onto him. So I'm not surprised that he comes out in favor of this, saying that he would have been dead opposed to 20 years ago. Fortunately for Republicans, one, what Joe Biden's talking about is not popular. Two, more accurately, it's actually outright illegal. So you cannot statutorily provide term limits for the justices, because the Constitution very clearly provides in Article 3, Section 1, Clause 1, that justices shall serve, quote, during good behavior, which has been unanimously interpreted to mean life tenure. So to overrule that, you need a constitutional amendment. You can't do it by congressional statute. Same thing for this so-called ethics proposal there. If you're trying to tell them when they can or cannot recuse themselves from cases, you can't do that either, because that's part of the, quote, judicial power, which Article 3 of the Constitution speaks. So these things are actually in the Constitution. You can't just pass a congressional statute to overrule it. Ultimately, what's going on here, I think, and this is really kind of the main thrust of the point here, what's ultimately going on here is that the left in America cannot stand the fact that the United States Supreme Court is maybe the only institution of major political, legal, cultural, or civilizational salience in this country that is not entirely controlled by the left. It is not a hard right court, it is a center right court, but it is not a left-wing court. And for that reason, and that reason alone, the left is trying to destroy it.
Yeah, that's very clear. Good luck to them. I can't see this getting up. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.